Hello, Montessorians. I'm Camilla Campuzano, and I'm here today with Nido Marketing to talk about school blogs, why you should have them on your website, why they're so important to marketing. It can be a great way to get that visibility on Google and on Bing and other search engines, and why you really should be considering updating your blog regularly. So let's dive into this topic because it's certainly a very important one. All right. So I'm here on the Nido Marketing website, and it kind of gives you a great rundown as to why you should have a blog. And there are really several reasons why you should be having a blog. Posting regular blog articles can be a great way to actually engage with parents and educate them. So many parents, they may have heard Montessori. It's obviously a very, very popular schooling system nowadays, and people are aware that it exists and may have heard the name, but do they actually know what it's like? Do they know what to expect when they tour? Do they know what it's like in the classroom? Are they aware of, things that they could do as parents to tie in Montessori into everyday life? So having a blog is a great way to help you educate these parents. And really, it helps you to create these lifelong advocates for Montessori. If they're, recommending your school blog to friends, or sharing and spreading the word about Montessori, it helps you in the end always. So it's great to have that kind of communication and link to keep parents engaged in your school. It also builds credibility because when schools find your blog, let's say they're looking for, what is Montessori like in the elementary level, and they find a blog on your website, you all of a sudden to them become that source of credibility. So they got the information from you. So in their eyes, you're like an expert on the subject. So it's really great to have that. So if you have, great information that you can put out into the world, why not? Because then you become the source of that information for other parents to come and find you. It's a great way for them to journey on your website, spend time reading through all of your wisdom and getting to know what you have to offer on a deeper level. So it's really great to have that sort of content on your website. You definitely want to be having that. Ultimately, that reinforces trust in your school. So if they know that they can come to your blog and find, loads of information that can help them be empowered as a parent, that can help them understand the Montessori method deeper, they're really going to feel more empowered being a parent at your school and possibly even being more engaged in your community. So these are just kind of, foundations. When you have a great blog, parents will want to engage more on your website. They'll be drawn in more. But let's talk about why we have a website from a more kind of logistical marketing standpoint. And this is where, I lose a lot of Montessorians because, we studied child development. We studied, we did our AMI training or AMS training, or we're Montessorians, we're not marketers here. So let me just explain why it's so important to have a blog on your website. And it's something that you can ultimately maintain for free if you can make the time for it. And it's really about keeping your website updated. In today's world of Google and Bing and other search engines, it can be really, really competitive to stay on the top of those search rankings. And how often do we go past the first page of a Google search? It's so important to be up there and for people to be able to find you because, they're not looking at their, community newspaper anymore. They're looking at Google to find schools for their children. So by updating your website regularly and having a great blog, you're actually increasing your chances of coming up on that search engine. And ultimately, that gives you the exposure you need to boost your enrollment. And this is our ultimate goal in Montessori marketing. And in really any business, you want customers, you want parents, you want children to be enrolled in your school, you want to grow your Montessori community. So if you want to do that, a blog can be a great space that you can utilize in order to boost yourself up in those rankings. You don't even have to be an SEO expert per se. All you have to do is write a great blog. Make sure you're using those key terms that people would search for Montessori. Some of them that come to mind are positive discipline, Montessori environment, Montessori primary programs. All of these things are people or are what people are Googling when it comes to Montessori. So if you throw those in your blogs, you're going to come up on more searches and get that visibility that you want. And you don't necessarily have to be paying for that if you can just dedicate the time to write your blog. So it's just a great option to have. Now I'm going to go into some tips and tricks on how you can maintain a blog, because too many times I hear from school leaders that they're overwhelmed. They have no time to spare. You've got parents asking you questions. You've got staff that you need to support, and it can be so overwhelming. Especially this past year, if we've learned anything, being a school leader is already so much to juggle on its own. So there are two routes that you can really take. And the first route is to really become dedicated in planning and organizing your blog content. And I'll show you how you can stay on top of that. Or you can simply outsource your blog. And it's well worth it to do so, because having fresh blog content on your website makes all the difference nowadays with these tech-savvy parents who are checking the blog, who are Googling you, who are finding you online. It is so worth it. So let's talk a little bit about Nido marketing services for blogging. So these weekly blogs are great to, again, inspire and engage with parents. And luckily, we have a trained Montessori guide who writes beautiful content for us. And when you sign up for a content package, it's an automatic 1 blog post a week, and it's fantastic content, beautifully written. And you can also have access to our Montessori stock photo library. So those blogs, they really should have pictures or images, because that does increase your SEO chances as well. So if you have great pictures or content or videos that you could add to your blog, that's also great to put on your website, because that will ultimately kind of tell Google, oh, there's interesting stuff on this website. Can we push it up in the ranks? So it's great to have that sort of content there. And it's very simple. It works in 3 simple steps. Every month we provide the content. You can check it out, review it, and see if it's appropriate or it needs edits. And we'll automatically post it on your website for you. So you're done. You can just sit back and watch those leads come in through your website and people discover you through your blog. And you can, of course, sample a free monthly package of Montessori content. So you can have, I believe it comes with 4 blogs. We also include social media posts, but really the blogs is the focus of the conversation here. So definitely give it a try if you're looking for, a way to get out of having to stay on top of blogging yourself. And you can find that at nidomarketing.com/content. And of course, you can request a free sample today. Now let's get into my tactics for saving time and maintaining organization when it comes to blogging. So let's dive into that. All right, so it is no secret that creating content online is time consuming. It can be, at the back of your to-do list, and it can just kind of come up as that task that, oh, here we go, I forgot to do the blog again, and I just don't have 2 hours to spare at this point. I'm just going to not keep up with it. But there are some tactics that you can take here. If you want to personally maintain your blog, you don't want to outsource, you can still do things that will help you save time and stay on top of it, because it really is worth it. So I'm going to talk about a great hack, and this is updating, repurposing, and republishing your existing blog content. Because if you write one great blog, you can repurpose and reuse that content over and over again over the span of a few months or years. Definitely keep an archive on your website. It could be your library of reference. You don't want to give up on old blogs and just forget about them. Definitely go back and reuse that great content that you created. You spent good time on it. It'll save you loads of time and energy, and it'll allow you to efficiently achieve the results you're looking for. So, if you have annual events that happen every year, so perhaps you have a winter festival that happens every single year, just pull up the blog that you created from the previous year, make a few tweaks, update the pictures, maybe add a new video that you recorded from the most recent festival, and that can be great content for a fresh new blog. So repurposing that blog content as well. We have so many great Montessori blogs that are available to us. There are some great websites if you just Google Montessori blog, you'll have an overwhelming response of some incredible blogs that already exist. And these are great for inspiration. You don't have to start from scratch. When you write a paper, you do your research, you reference books, you can do the same with a blog. So go out there and see what other blogs are writing about when it comes to Montessori. Notice how they're phrasing their blog content as well. It's not normally a big block of text. You'll see concise bullet points. You'll see a consumable amount of text. So something that a parent could read, in a matter of 5 minutes or less. You don't want to overwhelm the parents. And it's great to repurpose that website. I will never advocate plagiarism. You don't want to copy somebody else's blog, but you can certainly take inspiration so you don't have to be overwhelmed with coming up with ideas. Another great thing is just simply republishing the content you already have. So parents come and go as the years go by. Your blog library acts like an archive. A parent that you had 10 years ago isn't going to constantly be looking at your blog. Maybe they are, maybe they're lifelong advocates, but not all of them will be. So you can certainly republish old blogs, bring them back to the surface for new parents to discover. Maybe just make minor tweaks, but you can completely just reuse them if that's something that you just don't have time for. So these are some options that you could do when you don't want to be always staying on top of creating content. And this brings me to considering that cycle. So you can see kind of how many years does the average parent spend within your school community. Are you serving parents for 3 years? Are you serving them for 6 or 10? And you can kind of figure out this cycle that you can recycle your content and not make it seem repetitive or like you're just reusing it over and over again. You can create a cycle that works for your school. And actually reusing this content helps your SEO efforts because the more time you have, the word positive discipline on your website, the higher it's going to rank when somebody's Googling that. So it doesn't hurt to repurpose your content. It's not going to hurt your search engine efforts. And yeah, update pictures and don't be afraid to reuse content. All right, next is writer's block, and this is something that can definitely stunt you when it comes to time. So think about a variety of topics. Make a list. We have a great list of over 50 blog ideas on Montessori Thrive, which is in the link in the description below. If you need resources for your school, it's a great website. You can join, you can request resources and exchange resources for your Montessori school efforts. It's great for marketing resources. And we have great lists, but there is inspiration everywhere. It's great when you write it out and make a list. Think about your social responsibilities as a school. What do you value? What are your missions? What parent education goals are you trying to achieve? What are the most frequently asked questions that you get? Talk about school life. What is life like in your classroom? Don't be afraid to get guides involved in writing blogs for you. Maybe have, each guide write one blog a semester for you, and you can add that to your website and implement it into your blog schedule. And provide value in your blog. Think about what parents ultimately want to know, what you think a parent with new eyes would want to see. We get so stuck in our ways about thinking, sometimes we think we're making sense in our blog because we live Montessori every day, but to fresh eyes, it could be a bit overwhelming. So make sure you're making it valuable to those who maybe don't understand Montessori quite yet or just getting familiar with it. Planning is a huge element of saving time and also just staying on top of it, because if you have it written down, you will be more consistent. You will have a visual there for you, and you can figure out a schedule that works for you, whether it's a weekly blog, a bi-weekly blog, or even once a month. Once a month is absolutely fine. It's enough to keep your blog refreshed, people engaged on your website. Just make sure you're consistent. Don't write a blog every 6 months. Kind of keep on top of it and get parents involved. Post it on your Instagrams, on your Facebooks when you're coming out with them as well. A great way to plan is just using a simple Excel spreadsheet, and you can find our blog planner Excel spreadsheet on Montessori Thrive as well if you want to download it and use it as a template. But you can, of course, create your own template, one that works for you. You can figure out your posting frequency. So if it's once a month, once a week, you can figure that out and make a schedule for you. And go ahead and write out, who's going to be writing your blog for that week or month. Is it a guide? Is it you? Is it an office assistant? What's the topic or title? Figure out that in advance, and it'll become so much less daunting when it's time to post. Briefly describe the content that you're going to include, what category you're going to put it under. Is it parent education? And there you go. You've got kind of the foundations to publishing your blog. So once you have a good plan in place, you can execute it so much easier. It becomes less daunting, and you can stay on top of it because it's certainly valuable to have on your website. And this brings me to time blocking. So this goes hand in hand with planning. You want to dedicate a certain amount of time, every week or every month to create a blog. When you have that on your schedule and you make sure to kind of stick with it, you're so much more likely to stay on plan. Now, I understand that as a school administrator, you're going to get things thrown at you. You're going to have emergencies, and it might be hard to stay on top of it. But reschedule if you have to, but have that blocked on your calendar. It takes about 2 hours to come up with a good blog at most. You don't need to spend a lot of time on it. It could be something as easy as a few pictures and 5 tips to make your home more Montessori, or 5 easy ways to implement positive discipline in your household. Something short and sweet is fine if you don't have the time, if you're having one of those weeks or months, but certainly dedicate time to creating a blog. I hope that you guys really took a lot from some of my tips and tricks on blogging for your school, and know that it's so important to stay on top of refreshing your website, especially in today's time when it's so important to stay on top on those Google searches. It could be great for your marketing efforts. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. I want to stress that there are many ways you can outsource your blog. You can ask parents to get involved in writing blog articles for you. You can ask assistants, guides. It doesn't have to all fall on your shoulders. Get your community involved. Blogging can be a great asset for your school. I hope to see you in my video next week. I'll be talking and sharing more marketing tips for your Montessori school.